by creating carbon-to-carbon bonds to make sugars, right, photosynthesis. Whereas when we're burning coal, we're breaking the carbon-to-carbon bonds and producing CO2 and energy. What's respiration? Okay, so what are we doing to run our bodies? If we eat sugar, what are we doing?
We're increasing our energy.
How are we doing that? Where are we getting that energy from?
From food.
Okay. Does anybody remember blowing up gummy bears in Saturday Academy?
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr.
So,
Bao.
are we
Mr.
getting
Bao
our-
was like the one who tortured gummy bears.
Like we're getting our energy from, isn't it like glucose or something?
Okay, so we're getting it from the sugars. Now, do we get it like when Mr. Bao burned the gummy bear?
Kinda, yeah.
Except that was really fast, right?
Just so it's a little bit slower.
So we slow it down ourselves. But it's the same principle. You're breaking the carbon-to-carbon bonds and you're capturing the energy. That's respiration. Photosynthesis is the plants are using the sun's energy to make the carbon-to-carbon bonds to store the energy. So you break them to release the energy, you make them to store the energy. There it is, photosynthesis and respiration. With coal, there's lots of carbon-to-carbon bonds in that chunk of coal. They're breaking them. They're using oxygen and energy to break them. They're producing lots of energy by breaking those carbon-to-carbon bonds, and they're also producing CO2, which is what we're talking about, the carbon cycle. A variation of that with natural gas. So it's related in principle to cellular respiration, right? Then with the power plant, then, this is what we saw yesterday. Why is it near a river?
So it can get the water,
Why does it need the water?
so that it will go up to the,
So it can create steam.
yeah.
Okay, what is it using to create the steam?
It's using coal.
The coal.
In the boiler. So the coal is heating the water in the boiler, right? Remember when you opened that little door? Did you see that?
Yeah.
And it was like
That was
really hot,
scary.
you wouldn't let us stand in front of it just in case it shot out.
That was scary.
Yeah. What did you say, 3,000 degrees? That was something outrageous.
Yeah, 3,000.
3,000 degrees. You're not gonna stick your hands in there. And he was like, "Ugh," but it was glowing red.
We didn't see that.
I thought you were talking about the one where
The-
it was
I-
like it was like wind.
I was scared. My shirt was going up. I got.
It seemed like you were gonna fly away if you stepped in there. I was
Yeah.
like, no man.
They're like, hold on to your helmet. I was like,
I'm not going in there.
Why were they pulverizing the coal? Why were
Like
they?
a soldier, I don't know, like a
to get
person.
the energy out of the coal.
Ah,
Oh,
it's a
thank you.
step to get that. It's a step before.
So
Why?
to get the coal to hit the water and.
Okay, you're telling me the next step. Why do you make the coal into powder?
So
So it's easier to work with?
yeah.
Okay, so it's easier to burn. Because burning, the fire occurs on the surface. So if you've got charcoal briquettes in your barbecue and you're burning your steaks, not burning your steaks, you're cooking your steaks. Are you cooking your steaks at 3,000 degrees?
No.
You would burn them.
Yeah.
You want it to come out slower. So you got a big chunk of charcoal, right? And it's burning kind of slowly. If you ground it up, it would burn really fast, right? Because there's more surface area. So they're taking that coal and they're making it into dust. They're injecting it, and it's burning really fast. So it's kind of like Mr. Bao and the gummy bears. The energy's coming out really fast. It's not coming out slow like it does in our cells. It's not coming out slower like it does in your barbecue. It's coming out really fast. You get that water super hot. What happens with the water? What's these turbines? Okay, it turns into steam, and the steam does what?
Does it generate the transformer?
Okay, and the transformer is this turbine, right? So the steam makes it and we move. That moves magnets. That creates the electricity that goes out on those transmission lines. Okay? What comes out from the coal, if they have no scrubbers, we wind up with a lot of CO2, sulfur dioxide, which causes acid rain, particulate matter. A bunch of you guys were in Saturday Academy. Remember when Bao and David had you guys look at particulates.
Yep.
They kept giving me these pieces of paper with Vaseline to stick all over my farm, and you guys were counting them, okay? Particulates, nitrogen oxides. This nitrogen oxide is what causes smog. Okay, and they talked about how they were removing a lot of these things. Okay, and I can talk about how I want them to remove even more. But they're putting in these scrubbers in the smokestack so they're not spewing out as many pollutants. And that's the current discussion in the news right now. So right after he spoke with you guys, Brad went to speak with the newspapers and the TV stations in Wichita, or excuse me, in Topeka, to talk about the recent Supreme Court case, where we're going back and forth, and this is an ongoing process that will be ongoing for a while now, about how much we want them to remove from the outgoing smoke. So that's all I have to say. Now I want to hear about you guys and your carbon.
This is our beautiful fall. We put a lot of work into this.
Yeah, be
Like,
proud.
great.
So this is our cycle, and it starts with the sunlight, goes down to these trees, the organic cardboard. This is the organisms, the dead organisms and waste products, the animal respiration, the root from the trees that goes all the way to the factory, back to the cycle in the clouds, and this is the ocean uptake that's connected to the fossils and the fossil fuels that eventually start going up. And that's ours.
Where do we put it?
You
Where do
pick
you
your
want it?
place.
Find
Find the spot you want it.
Next to that bacteria cell.
Oh, no, we're gonna hang it up.
Where?
Yeah, up there
Next to the
maybe.
bacteria cell.
Maybe.
We're over there.
Or like
Yeah, come here.
I don't think
somewhere.
Oh, leave them
Just hold
open.
it
You
for
can
now.
move them if you want to.
Oh, but how is it gonna
I'll get the.
Oh.
You just want to
Help.
take care of
Oh, okay.
Connect it.
Would have been tragic. Alright. Okay, so this is our poster. And we tried as hard as we could, but we really can't draw. So it starts with the CO2's in the atmosphere, and it goes down, it like photosynthesis, it goes into the trees, and then it goes to the roots and the decomposing waste, and that's fossil fuels. Then it'll go up to it'll go up to the air, and then it kind of starts back over. And the combustion from the smoke from the factories, it goes up to the CO2 and pretty much starts all the way back over. So, yeah, so it's the cycle.
Okay, one more.
Yes, I want Yeah, I just hold this.
Alright guys, so this is our CO2 carbon cycle.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
And it explains the carbon in the air that goes into the trees that decay, compose in the ground, and this is just like a diagram of the formation of fossil fuels, and then some types of carbon emission from like factories and stuff go into the air and yep.
Okay, I have a question for everybody now. What is a fossil fuel?
It's this stuff.
Okay, is coal being made today?
No, it's underground.
It's being dug out.
Okay, when was it made?
Billions
Years
of
ago
years ago.
with the big piles of plants.
And
long time ago.
why did those plants become coal and the trees today are not being
Because
coal?
they died and then they like started going like underground and then they just
They
like,
just changed.
yeah, they just stayed there for, they chilled for a really long time.
Why did they chill rather than decomposing?
Because they're
The nitrogen.
The carbon.
Okay, who is it who decomposes?
you
The
decomposing.
plants.
Okay,
Animals decompose too.
Mr.
Bacteria.
The bacteria, right. Okay, so a long time ago, bacteria were not able to decompose plants because they hadn't evolved the ability to decompose plant cells. Because the cell walls are hard to decompose. Now, you guys chew a lot when you eat celery.
Yep.
Yeah.
Never ate that.
Okay, but lettuce, when you're eating lettuce, but especially things like celery or carrots, you're chewing a lot because they have cell walls. Do we have cell walls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
No,
we
no,
don't.
no,
We
no,
don't
no,
have
no,
membranes.
no.
We don't.
We have cell membranes. If I had cell walls, I wouldn't be able to do this. I'd be like a hasty ant, right?
You'd be stiff.
Like in the house.
So spaghetti does not have cell walls. That's why it's so flimsy and easy to eat.
Well,
But before it boils, it has cell walls.
yeah, so what you're doing is you have to soften up those cell walls. Wood is stiff, plants are kind of stiff.
Chemical reaction, right?
So you need a chemical reaction to break down those cell walls. This is one of the problems we're having making biofuels. If we want to use algae or we want to use plant material to make biofuels, it's really hard because we don't have an easy way of breaking down the cell walls to get at the inside stuff in the cells, which would give us the biofuels. That's why they use corn, which is kind of cheating. Corn's not a very efficient biofuel, but they can break down the corn just like we eat the corn. We're not talking about the leaves, we're talking about the actual corn. Okay, we can break that down pretty easily because it's not full of cell walls. Okay, so they can get a lot of energy out of that. But if we wanted to do biofuels from agricultural waste, from leaves and things like that, from algae, we have to break down those cell walls. That's hard to do. Well, back before the bacteria evolved a way of breaking down those cell walls, plants just piled up. They didn't decay. That gave us the cold. Now if you see a tree fall down, like that log I showed you guys last time, it rots, right? It rots. We can break down those cell walls now if we've got the bacteria and the fungi. That's why we don't make coal anymore, because it rots before it can make coal.
Do you think there will ever be a time to make coal again?
No, because we got bacteria that breaks it down for us, that keeps it in the current day cycle. It's not being put into the bank, basically. It's being recycled now.
It's crazy because now we have it, but then in like in a couple of years, well not a couple, but like in a lot of years, people are gonna say, "What is that?" You know?
Here's something.
Like they're not really gonna know about it. Like it's just weird.
Well, do you guys know what it's like to burn whale blubber in your lamps?
No.
No.
What's that?
They used to kill whales and take off their fat and put that in lamps. So if you were living like in the 1700s and you were studying for school, you would pour some oil in your lamp and turn it on and open your book, you'd be burning whale blubber. Have you ever done that?
No.
So we move on, we change our fuels, right? Maybe one day people will say, they used to burn coal, that's crazy.
What is that?
Like they used to burn whales?
I wonder if Pinocchio did that.
We got flashlights now.
Man.
Got flashlights.
And our
Automatic,
phone.
automatic flashlight.
Okay, so now Mr. Bao is going to show
Are we
us
gonna
some
take
really
a
scary
break or-
stuff.
Yeah,
Can we take a break?
let's
Yeah.
take 5 minutes break and then we'll come back and finish with